What if I told you that your deepest wounds could become the source of your greatest strength? Hi, I am Anna Ditchburn, and I wanted to record this video just because recently I had a conversation with a beautiful, beautiful woman, beautiful inside and out, but who has been struggling with her childhood sexual abuse for a long, long time, which resulted in lots of suffering. But in this video, I want to prove you that there is a hope that one day you can become the happiest, the strongest, the bravest, and the most loving version of self. But before I start, what I'm about to share can be potentially heavy. So if you are not ready to hear this, please just switch it off. I want to take you back 26 years ago when I was 10 years old. I was such a happy, such a bubbly child until my stepfather came into our life. He was an army guy, very controlling, very disciplinarian. So my younger brother and I quickly learned how to walk on eggshells and obey all the rules in the house without even questioning. And we were physically disciplined for everything, for leaving our clothes on the floor, for not cleaning good enough. And by the age of 15, just when I thought the torment could not get any worse, he started sexually abusing me. He threatened my life and the life of my mom and my brother if I ever reveal his dirty secret. And knowing how horribly abusive he can be, I believed him. And it was at this point I realized I'm totally on my own in this world. See, sexual abuse can be very shameful. It makes you feel like you've done something wrong, that like it's your own fault. And I didn't want to feel this way. So I pretended like nothing happened. That was a big mistake. Feeling his impunity, he continued. And this abuse continued for 6 years, which resulted in 2 pregnancies and in 2 forced illegal abortions. 6 years of constant shame, pain, anger, guilt, panic attacks. Now, when I'm looking back, I'm asking myself, how could possibly 15 years old girl handle such a challenges? And all these years, I've been blaming myself for not being able to speak up. Why didn't I do anything at the very beginning? Why I didn't fight back? Why I didn't kick him? Why I didn't yell, scream, or do something? Why I didn't tell my mom at those times? Later, I realized I had been conditioned, and when it happened for the very first time, I freeze. And that was my protection mechanism at those point. But at those time, I couldn't understand that. And so the self-blaming, constant self-judgment and self-attack were going for years and years and years. And I could feel this was literally killing me on the inside. But did you know that 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 20 boys under age of 18 are victims of childhood sexual abuse? And most assaults are going unreported. And speaking from my own experience, so many children are afraid to say what is happening to them because it felt it felt unsafe. It felt like I would rather die than tell anyone. At the age of 21, I ran out of the house, and in a few years I moved to Australia thinking, finally, I'm free. Only if I knew that you can't escape trauma geographically. And the more I was keeping this shame and guilt and pain and anger to myself, the more it was eating me on the inside. It was like a cancer just killing me on the inside and shadowing my light. And at those times, I was trying to switch all those emotions that were causing me a lot of pain and struggle. without realizing that you can't switch just particular emotions. There is only one switch. And so I literally became numb on the inside. I didn't feel pain at some point. I didn't feel shame. I was so careless. I didn't feel happiness. I didn't laugh. And I thought maybe I'm not capable of love. Maybe I'm not capable of empathy or kindness because I didn't feel anything. It was just like an empty on the inside. And later on, when I got married and I wanted to have children, and I was losing pregnancy after pregnancy, and it wasn't just a pregnancy loss, it felt like something inside me is dying, like every single time. My trauma manifested in 20 consecutive miscarriages, and 10 different doctors in Australia could not give me any physical reason why it was happening to me. And when I was going through miscarriage number 11, I was in an emergency, and the doctor called me aside and he said, Anna, we can't we can't find any physical reason why you're having this miscarriage. All your blood tests are perfectly fine. And he said, I think this is something to do with this and with this. And at this point, I knew exactly what it was. And I realized bottling up my trauma and trying to forget everything is not going to work. And that's what I knew, that it's time to break my 20 years of silence. But it was so scary. I did not want anyone to know what happened to me as a young girl. But I was a year into my relationship with my now husband. And from the very beginning of our relationship, he was very open and very honest about his experience, his life, his challenges and traumas. And it actually made me feel very safe to, to open up. I honestly thought if I tell it to someone, people wouldn't want to have anything to do with me. But the way how my partner reacted was the way I was always hoping for. He supported me. He made me feel like everything is going to be okay. Now, I know not every single person would get such a support. Sometimes the people we love, the people we want to get a support from, are not capable to do so. And that's how my healing journey began. And after trying counseling, psychology, shamans, NLP specialists, sound healing, body code, psyche, I found this beautiful hypnotherapist. Honestly, she is my guardian angel. And the deep healing began with a whisper, with a confession to my hypnotherapist, who was holding a space, a safe space for me, where I was able to open up like this rose slowly going through the crack of concrete. And in the process, I was able to forgive my stepfather for doing this to me. I was able to forgive my mom for not being able to protect me. But most importantly, I was able to forgive myself. Before, it felt like I was carrying a suitcase full of rocks, and each rock represented a painful memory, tears, shame, guilt, pain, anger. And the more I was carrying those suitcases, the heavier it would feel. And it was anchoring me. And when I started forgiving, I was slowly removing this. I was slowly removing each rock out of my suitcase. And it was getting lighter and lighter. And there is a very famous quote of Desmond Tutu. Forgiveness says, you are given a new chance to start a new beginning. And that's exactly what I did. And in the process, I finally had the courage to tell my mom what was happening. And when I told her, she turned into a mama bear, and she pressed the criminal charges against my stepfather. And I had to fly back to Russia to testify against my perpetrator. Honestly, if I had to go what I went through testifying against my perpetrator at 15 years old, I would probably hang myself. I don't know if I could handle such a pressure. I was going through hours and hours and hours of testimonials, polygraph, physical examinations, mental examinations, literally telling every single detail what was happening. It wasn't easy, but I was so strong at those points, and I felt like I reclaimed my power back. I was able to help my mom to deal with her emotions of guilt and shame and blaming herself for what happened to me. And while I was there, I realized that we don't have any childhood sexual abuse survivors support in my hometown. And after what I went through, I felt responsible for those children who don't have a voice. And I've contacted the biggest publisher in my hometown and I share my story. And I left my email address saying, girls, if you are going through something similar and you have no one to talk to, send me an email. Hundreds and hundreds of emails. My inbox exploded. It took me 8 weeks to respond to every single email, and I'm still getting them. And in the process, I realized how many people are still suffering in silence. And that's where I realized that my purpose is to become the loudest voice for those people. And there is nothing that can stop me anymore after what I went through. And despite all the damage that my stepfather have done, he actually gave me the biggest gift, the gift of adversity. And now I use this gift to guide other women from their own shadow into the light of their own strength. And this is not a sad story. Actually, it's a story of the triumph, forgiveness, miracles, and most importantly, hope. And I hope that you see some of your own story in my journey and realize that even unimaginable horror can become your own superpower, your unstoppable force, and a powerful story that will inspire and encourage millions of women around the world. And I stand before you, no longer a carrier of shadows, but a beacon of light. And alongside with the man of my dreams, who is now my husband, we are traveling the world. I love what I do. I love myself. I love how I look. I love how I feel. I enjoy every single day of my life. And I want this for you too. And I invite you to think about your own case. What rocks are you carrying? And what rocks are you ready to throw away? And if my story resonated with you, I have a present for you today. Actually, two presents. I've recorded a very powerful meditation that will help you to boost your self-confidence and self-esteem and feel grounded. And I would also love to give you one-on-one complimentary breakthrough hypnotherapy session to uncover your hidden barriers and your hidden rocks and help you to find your own purpose and passion in this life. Send me a direct message, and I'm looking forward for you to become this beautiful rose.